Hey, what's up? This is Alchemist.camp, where we learn Elixir and Phoenix by building things. So as of last time, we made a pretty good start at a CMS. We've got resources and articles, which I haven't actually written any for the site, and episodes, which I have uploaded a lot, and they all have a unified tagging system. And the resources themselves work in basically the same way as the episodes and the articles. So it's a pretty nice setup. However, these tags, which do work on all of them, are not very useful right now. By clicking on tag, I just see the name of the tag and that's it. So today we're going to extend it so that you can go the other way. Instead of just being able to get or update the tags on any given piece of content of whichever type, we'll also make it possible to get all of the content related to any given tag, which is going to be a little bit more complicated. The first thing we're going to do, though, is just make some of the changes that I did last time to the episodes on the other two types of content. So this is the listing page for the episodes. I've got a little chunk in here to style the topics. I'm just going to copy this out and put the same chunk in for the topics on the others. And looks like I just replaced this line here. This is articles, so I'll change this episode.entity.topics to article. And it looks like that's the only episode I have to change. I'll fix this alignment here, save it, and do the exact same change in the index for the resource pages. And this one has got to be called resource.entity.topics. Just a quick refresher in case you haven't seen the earlier episodes, which you really should in order to understand what's going on here. I have an entity table in the database, and the entity ID is on the resource table, and it's on the article table, and it's on the episode table. And that's kind of the thing that ties together these different kinds of content. And then there's a many-to-many relationship between topics and entities in order to make tags. All right, so with these changes, we also changed some things on the episode controller last time in order to make it convenient to do the updating of the tags. So we're going to make those same changes. First is to pass the tags into a new article or resource page. And that is pretty simple. Just pass in an empty list of tags. And then in the create, after we've got an article created, we're going to have to add tags. And that's a helper that I created. It's basically just doing the add tag function over however many tags that we have. So this is going to be exactly the same except for the parameter. We won't be passing in an episode, we'll be passing in an article, although the function will work on anything that has an entity ID. Then the next thing we need is in the edit, we've got to move these changes over. So we've got to get the tags out of the piece of content, and we've got to pass the tags in the change set again. So we'll do that here as well. And instead of an episode, this is an article. And the change set is going to take those tags that we just got. And the update is going to have to update the tags in the database. And once again, there's a nice helper function that we made that was in the video last time. It's called update tags. So content.update tags. And that takes, come on VS Code, you were just showing it to us. That takes the piece of content first and then the topics. So we'll do that here. Article and topics that we have gotten from the parameters actually. So we're going to rename this to params and capture topics out of it. So topics, and set the whole thing equal to params, and and use our topics down there. Okay, then let's make sure that we got that. Oh, we had to get those in create as well. So we will do the exact same kind of matching that we just did. Make sure we get topics out of the params and set that to topics. And still keep a hold of the params as a whole, like so. And I'm just going to call that params instead of article params. And we've got article, we've got the topics. Okay, so then we just need to do the exact same thing in the resource controller, and that's going to be pretty straightforward. So tags, when we're first creating it, there are no tags. Then in the create, we're going to capture the topics from our form. And capture the params as a whole. We're just going to call them params because that's shorter and easier. Then we're going to add the tags from the topic params that came in. And it's going to be resource and topics. And finally, we've got the edit path. Got to do basically the same stuff. Tags loaded for the resource. And then our change set is going to get those tags. And the update is going to know what to do with them. The tags are going to the form, and the topics are getting passed in from the form. So that's why we have different names here, topics and tags. They're basically the same thing. Topics is a table in the database, and tags is just what I'm calling the relationship of topics to pieces of content. Topics, and set that whole thing to params. And after we've got our piece of content, then we've got to add those tags to the newly created resource page. So content.add tags to resource, and we'll add the topics. Those topics are coming in as a string from the form, but our content context will parse it out, and I'll show you that in 1 second. Let's see what is wrong here. Line 44 is missing a closing brace. Okay, and that would be this brace. I think the IDE or the text editor ate it while I typed over it. I was expecting to get another one. All right, so we've got each of those done. Let's just look at content really quickly. So I've got all these different functions here that match add tag, and I went over that in an earlier episode that I recommend you check out. It's in the building a CMS playlist, or it's called something like that. And basically, it just makes it possible to add a tag to either an entity that you pass in, or something that has an entity ID, which would be like a resource or an episode or an article. And it's also possible to take in a string for the name of the topic, since I have a match when is binary up here. And I've got the same deal for removing tags. And then I also have plural forms here. So if you pass in a string of comma separated words, all of those tags get added. If you pass in a list of tags, then they all get added as well. So there's some flexibility in how to use the API here. Then finally, update tags will get the tags that are currently loaded on the piece of content. And it will also get the tags that have come in through the form. So they're old tags and new tags. And when you're doing an edit, it will update it by adding the new tags that weren't already there. This is a difference operation on two lists. So your first list has A, B, C, and D, and your second list has C, D, E, F. Then new tag, or the first one minus the second one, would basically just be A and B, because the second one had C and D that got removed from the first set. And Then we remove the tags that were in the old tags but are not in the new tags. So it's pretty straightforward, and that is pretty much that. And this helper here is basically just for the index pages. That way it's really easy to order them by something. So I can order, say, all of the episodes by most recently updated, or by when they were published, or whatever way I want to, alphabetical. And I can show it to you in action higher up in the file. It'll be list episodes. So you can see here, I just say list episode ascending based on inserted at. So I'm basically showing them from the oldest to the newest. And that's what you'll see if you look on the site. So episode form. So in the episode form, I've just got this little form group here that it's basically just a text input for tags, and tags isn't directly on the schema because the tags are actually related to entities and not to episodes. But as I just walked through that logic with you in the context, we can use this for all of them. So I'm just going to add this form group to the other types of content. So we'll open up articles, article form right here, and I'm going to add the same thing. And we'll also open up resource form. Okay, so we're just going to make a test article. Oh, that's totally not going to work because that is production. Going to go here and see what articles I have on dev. All right, well, it looks like I actually already have a couple, and I have topics added to them, but I did that through the command line. So let's see if I can add a topic here. Forum, will add community to this one. And it looks like that worked. Let's have a quick look at resources and make sure we've got some of them created as well. We've got one, and this is actually very good. It's a forum. So we have a forum, which is tag number 6 in articles and in resources, and possibly even in episodes. We do. And the reason why this is good, that they all have the same tag forum, is that we may want to show all of the different kinds of content together on the same page based on their tag. Now, the display of each of them may not be exactly the same, but it is useful to have this data across types of content. The same would be true if we had likes or something like that. So let's set up a way to do that. We'll start by going to the router, and you'll see I've made a route to get things tagged with a given topic. And that's in the topic controller. As you can see, we do have a tagged action, so the route will end up here. But right now, this is just the same as the show action. We're getting a single topic and rendering its show page. What we want to do is we want to get all of the articles and all of the resources and all of the episodes that have been tagged with this topic. And since topics don't have any relationship whatsoever between articles or episodes or content, and they have a many-to-many relationship with entities, what we're going to do is we're going to get the entities, and then we're going to load whatever the content type is on the entity. That relationship doesn't exist right now. If you look in any of our types of content, we'll just say episode, you can see that it does belong to an entity, but the entity does not reciprocate that relationship. We'll just go to entity. And our entities do have many-to-many relationships with topics. Those are our tags, basically, and with users. And those relationships are likes. So we're going to add a has one for each of our content types. So for now, that's article and episode and resource. And so we've got to alias them in so that we can access them. And we will say has one article, which is going to be article, and has one episode, which is an episode, and finally has one resource page, which is the resource schema. And with that set up, we can preload all of these things into an entity, and we can preload the entity as well as all of these things into topics. So let's go to our content, and here is get topic. When we get the topic, we're going to preload all the entities through the many-to-many relationship. So repo.preload. Go away, pop-up entities. And actually, we're going to switch this around because we're going to get the content types from within the entity. So article and episode and resource. Now, we're not going to ever load more than one of these. So what's going to happen when we preload these into an entity is we'll have an entity with no article and no resource but an episode, or no episode, no resource but an article, and so on. So we've got our topic loaded up with all the things that are tagged with it, and we can just use that in our topic controller. So our topic, actually just one topic, and that's going to have entities and the content with it. And we are actually going to pass the topic as well. So we actually do want to do this. We've got to make a new page to display it, and we'll call that tagged.html. Topic show, there we are. And we'll create our new one called tagged.html.eex. I just saw an error. That is because this resource controller has add tags here in the update action, and this should be update. We use add tags in the create. Okay, now that's right now. Okay, now for the fun part. Since we've got multiple kinds of content that are being passed into this template, we're actually going to have to use a trick, or really not a trick, a technique that we haven't needed in any previous Alchemist Camp episode. So the first part is simple though. First part doesn't really matter what kind of content it is. We'll say tagged under, and then the name of the tag. It's going to be topic.text. And then after that, we'll start by making our table like we always do. And I've got Emmet, so I'm just going to use that, do this a little faster. Table.topic.index, and that's going to have a T head, and it's going to have a TR in it, and that's going to have 2 THs. Thank you very much, Emmet. First one is going to be called type, and the second one is going to be called title. And the type one, I'm going to add a class to, and that's basically just for alignment. I'm going to have this one centered, and the other one is going to be align left. Type. And what else do we need here? We got to have a table body. Okay. And inside of this t-body, we're going to iterate over all the entities we preloaded into the topic. So we'll say for entity from topic.entities. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. throw in the end right now so there's no confusion. First order of business is we got to find out what kind of content it is, and we're just going to do that in a block that doesn't render anything. We're just getting information here. So we're going to set content and the type of content it is, because we need that information to set some classes and things. And then we're also going to need a path, like basically a path helper, like the router would normally give you. And I'm going to call that content underscore path. And all of this is going to equal the result of a case statement. So case entity do. And we'll also end this one so we don't forget. All right, now we've got a match on what kind of thing was preloaded. So let's look in a console and we can see what does get preloaded. Alias campsite dot content, and remember it was topic number 6 that was the forum, so we'll use that get topic that preloads everything that we just made. Content dot get topic 6. Let's look at these results. So we have a topic and the text is forum, and it has loaded in 3 different entities. So first entity here is looks like it has a nil article, a nil episode, and it's loaded up a resource. So it's a resource page. Second one has loaded up an article, and the third one is an episode. And in every case, the other options are nil. So what we need to check for is we could check for the actual schema, but we don't have to do that. We can actually just get anything where the episode has an ID or where the article has an ID or so on. We'll say if this entity happens to have an article in it where that article has an ID of anything, and we don't care what that ID is, then we're going to return, or we're going to assign entity.article. That'll grab the article out of this entity, and we're also going to pass it article, which is just saying what type of thing it is. And then finally, we need to give it the article path, and we can do that by just making it an anonymous function, article path, and we have to give the arity of it. I'm going to say 3. We need 3 for any show or an update where it cares which article it is, and we need 2 for the index. First, we'll copy this down a couple of times, and then we'll grab the things that we need out of it. So we're going to get article and change that to episode. No, not Japanese. Hang on here. Episode. And then we're going to do the same third line for resource. And then we got to go change the capital one as well. Okay, so now we are matching, we're matching the content itself and the type of it and the path of it, and we're setting that in 3 variables, and we're going to use those variables as we loop through all of these entities. So it looks a little bit dense, but all things considered, it's not too bad. We could dry it out with a macro, but I think that would actually be more confusing to other people or to future us when working on it later. We need to do here. Okay, now for the table rows. Each table row is going to have 2 TDs, and each TD is going to have 1 div. We'll use Emmet to expand that again. The first one is going to say the type, and we've already saved that in a variable called type, so just use that here. And the second TD is going to have the title of whatever the piece of content is. So content.title. And there's start up the server again since it crashed from not having the do. Okay, so you can see we have a resource and an article and an episode, and we got the titles of each of them. So that is all well and good. Now, other than adding some classes to style them, we're going to want to link these up to the indexes. So you click on this one, take you to all the episodes. Then these titles should link to the actual episode or article or resource. So let's add both of those in right now. We're going to change this to linking type to the article path or episode path or resource path. Fortunately, we saved that function. So content path, and this is an anonymous function, so we've got to add a dot here and pass it the con and the index. And since we got a 3 arity function and this only takes a 2 arity, we're going to pass an empty list as a final component so that everything works. And now they're links. You can see all the resources, all the articles, and all the episodes. All right, good deal. Now let's link up the next one. So we've got a content title. We're going to make that a link content title to content path, and still need the dot, pass it the con and show, and then content dot, actually just pass in the entire article or episode or resource, and that should do it. Excellent. And excellent. Okay. All right, and that just leaves the classes. So we're going to add a few classes to this TD. Class equals, basically I want to have it say type article stamp, or type episode stamp, or type resource stamp. So I guess we'll do type and stamp first. So type, or actually we'll do stamp and then type. And to get the type, we're just going to use the saved variable that we set up above. So it's going to be, actually it's going to be lowercase because I don't want uppercase classes in CSS. So string dot downcase type, and that should be it. Yep, they look like nice little stamps. And finally, to add a couple classes here. Make that primary color, which is the purple, and specify that it's a title. All right, that looks pretty good too. Let's just add one more thing. Let's use the view counts that are on entities and display that as well. So throw that right after the title, and I've also made a style for that ahead of time as well. It's going to be small, and the class is going to be views. And we'll grab entity.viewCount. And that's intentionally wrapped in parentheses. Oh, that's not quite what I want. They'll have to go into the same div. That'll fix that. All right, there we go. So we have the titles, and they're clickable. It'll take us right to the thing we're looking for. And we have links from every single tag to whatever list of things is tagged under it. We're showing how many views they have, and I'm probably going to be messing around with this in the future, but this is a win for sure. So if I add a fourth type of content, the only thing that's going to have to change is the entity itself, is going to need one more has one, and the display is going to have to handle that last type of content, which it would have to anyway. Although we might even be worthwhile to take this whole chunk out and make it into a partial, so that all the logic for that is in one place if it's repeated in multiple places around the app. That wraps it up for this time, but there's still going to be some more videos in the CMS series, and if you enjoyed this, got something good out of it, hit like and go to alchemist.camp and sign up. I will see you again next time.